Hello and welcome to our short video on succession. And with me there are a couple of familiar names and that you'll recognise, Simon Chamberlain and also Tom Sheridan. The purpose of today really is to identify some of the key opportunities that are coming up, obviously with the around retail distribution review, but also in terms of being able to help you build your business for your benefit, but also for the clients as well. And I think this is going to be a very exciting period. But let's just go through some of the points. Simon, if I can turn to you first of all. With succession, how do you define success?
Well, success is in our title, of course.
That helps.
In succession. And our success has always been moving businesses from an old-style, transactional, commission-based environment all the way through to a modern, fee-based and service-led proposition. Now, we identified very early that all of the value in businesses going forward was going to be held in their funds under management and the recurring income derived from those funds under management. And so what Succession does is it identifies for our member firms where those assets sit. We show member firms how to move those assets in the client's best interest to make sure that the money sits in a modern and dynamic environment. And we also show our members how to capitalise on those assets throughout that through a set period of time.
So they benefit by getting more assets on the platform as soon as possible?
Well, correct. Everyone benefits, actually. The client benefits, the business benefits, because the income is reoccurring, so they know what kind of income levels they can plan on for the following year. It adds capital value to the business, and we give them an underpin on wanting to buy those businesses because they are valuable and worthwhile investing in.
Now, as part of actually transferring the money across, obviously you've gone through a process of evaluating a range of different investment propositions for them. And this gives them a range of choice. How have you actually gone about that selection?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of those selections have been made by the members themselves. Mm-hmm. One of the key tasks for us was to make sure that we remedied a mistake of the past where people believed that the more fund management groups that you had or the more funds you had was an indication of your independence. And we know that certainly isn't the case. I mean, we were looking at businesses that were joining Succession who had individual advisors who had as little as sort of £20 million under management, but were using 1,362 different funds, of which 400 of those funds might be balanced funds, and so it
becomes almost unmanageable.
Well, we would argue what benefit did that give the client apart from a load of paperwork and administration? Certainly, it didn't give any benefit at all to the advisory firm. So we're very led by life planning, and we believe that once you've identified what the client needs as a rate of return to deliver on their own individual plan, that the fund management group needs to be good enough to return that, and more importantly, big enough to overview the investment and make sure it stays within the client's objectives.
Now, you've got Rayner Spencer Mills to carry out the evaluation of all of these, and how many have you ended up with?
Well, we've got 12 key strategic stakeholders on the matrix, including 7IM, of course, and we are looking at bringing that matrix down to 8 from 12. There's 3,600 different funds on the platform, so our members can play the whole market if they wish. But as I said, with the sizable names that we've got on the matrix and the quality of their overview on the risk-rated portfolios, I can't see that we'll need more than 8.
Right. So you've actually got a blend of active managers and passive managers there as well.
And that's a raging debate that's going on in the marketplace, as you know, between active and passive fund managers. Succession is completely agnostic to that. We make sure that the member firms have a opportunity to choose between both. And what we do is make sure that we put in the right service standards on whatever fund manager we choose to achieve the goals of the client and the businesses that are a part of our membership.
Okay, well, let me turn to Tom. Tom, when you're looking at Seven Investment Management as part of this, how would you define Seven's success then?
Well, it's very important to be able to define in very simple terms what it is that constitutes a win. And in our case, it is improving the predictability of returns over the medium to longer term. To do that in the context of watching the risk, lower volatility, and also, very importantly these days, to watch the costs. We're in an environment where we're probably going to see lower returns for another generation or so. We're going to have higher volatility until we work off the debt that we've accumulated in the Western world. In that environment, very, very important to stay broadly diversified, have structure, have process, have durability, execute it with teams and not stars. Safe pair of hands for the customers, and also, to go back to what Simon was referring to before, to give the planner the reason to put the expected return into the cash flow forecast that they're looking at.
Okay, so they've been through the evaluation of the various investment houses. How does Seven Investment Management stand apart from them, and what extra value can they provide to the Succession members?
Well, as you mentioned before with the active and passive, we have active asset allocation, but we implement that asset allocation with passive instruments, which really drives down the cost of the portfolios. Now, we have, for the last couple of years, offered the 7IM AAP, or asset allocated passive funds, within the Succession program. And just recently, we've also added to that the model portfolios. So we are now unique within Succession in being able to offer either the fund version or the model portfolio version.
For the sake of clarity, just on this, can you define what you mean by a portfolio as opposed to a fund?
It's not unitized in very simple terms. So you've got, instead of looking at one position, which might say the 7IM AAP balanced, you'd be looking at the 12 to 14 underlying positions that would be in the fund in the model portfolio. And there are cases, perhaps for capital gains tax purposes, where the fund might be appropriate. There are cases for clients who want to see the activity within the portfolio that the portfolio might be appropriate. And we can now offer both of those.
So, Simon, when you're looking at this sort of business, can this help members really grow their businesses, or is this just transferring existing business?
No, I think it can help members grow their business, and particularly you mentioned before about the RDR. I mean, obviously the significant change next year will be the upfront agreement of a client fee for the work being done, and I think every advisor who's working an old style model is going to have a challenge in demonstrating what their 1%'s for. So, having a different range of investments, whether they're unitised or not, but having the overview process and the rebalancing taking place of that portfolio the whole time is a clear demonstration to the client why they're paying their ongoing fee. I mean, traditional models have been, here's a brochure, give me 100 grand and here's a brochure, right? That was as high as level the service went. Our focus on client retention and client servicing has got to be much better than that and much higher. And so all of these things help that.
So, Tom, what can Seven bring, which is actually going to raise the bar here and improve the service for Succession members for their clients?
Well, in addition to being a safe pair of hands from an investment perspective, we can also help with the marketing of the product. So you've been known on occasion to go out and stand in front of a microphone and say one or two words.
Every so often.
The material that we have coming out on the funds is now going to be much more visible and much more regular since we've launched the microsite that you'll be watching now. So that the ability for the Succession advisor to get access to information on 7IM funds, how we're doing, what's in there, what are we thinking right now, what are the costs, how do we stack up versus the competition, all of that available right away on the microsite, along with the joint marketing efforts of the 7IM regional relationship managers and people such as your good self.
And I'd say, and the unique pricing as well. I mean, obviously, because of our volume with you now, pricing on the funds is coming down, and that enhances the service for all of our members.
And in this period of low cost to low returns, then this is going to be actually very, very important.
I think we've actually managed on the multi-asset funds to come up with the lowest TERs that we can find in the program.
Which is very encouraging. So at the end of all of this then, the Succession members can transfer more onto the platform.
Yep.
That increases the value of their business.
Yep.
And by the sound of it, you have a pretty good proposition to actually go out and win more business.
Yep.
Where do you see that coming from?
New member firms into Succession, or new clients into Succession member
Both
firms?
of those, haven't you?
Well, I think that the challenges for the 30,000 advisors and the 15,000 businesses are well documented, and that most of those IFA firms out there that are not members of Succession usually become businesses by mistake. You know, a decent advisor with a PA takes on some RIs, and suddenly before he knows it, there's a business there, but without necessarily a complete business plan through to how the business capitalises and how the owner exits. So succession's marketplace is wide and wholesome. So our marketing strategy is one where we now decide who's going to join Succession, not us going out into the marketplace encouraging people to take up that proposition.
Effectively, they have to qualify almost to be of the right calibre and standard.
Well, and how they qualify is they qualify themselves. I mean, we've looked at 300 odd businesses to get to our 42, and the ones that didn't come through that process were basically businesses that weren't businesses at all, where you might have 7 or 8 advisors all sharing a brand, but they all own their own clients, they all had their own investment process, they all had their own funds, and therefore you're talking about 8 different businesses sharing a brand, where the only thing that's been consolidated is the liability to the owner.
Yep.
And so, and if the owner can't bring the advisors with him on the journey, then that isn't a business, and it's not a business that we could work with.
So, Tom, this partnership that you're sort of developing with these, how far do you think you can take that?
Well, we've had a partnership with Succession and with the members of Succession for a couple of years, and we find different ways that it manifests itself. It can be on-the-road visits. It could be in the office of the financial planner visits. It's in the regular conferences that Succession holds. It's on the telephone. It's through the microsite. There's a whole host of ways, such as conferences and seminars, that we can help get the message across of how to construct a portfolio for a given level of risk within a given level of time to produce the result that you want to put into your plan.
And you seem to have actually built a track record which backs that up over the past few years.
Well, 7am is probably unique in that the track record for the funds, the multi-manager funds, is now about 8 years old. And even though we've had about 1.5 black swans during that period of time, the returns, the compound annual returns in 7IM are very, very close to the expected returns as laid out by the actuaries.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time. I hope you found that useful. I think this is going to be a very exciting opportunity over the next few years, because I know and I can see the demand from clients immediately. And I have to say, I find it very encouraging coming across these professional members of Succession. Best of luck to you, to your business, and of course to your clients. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.